Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are above replacement radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Giant. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today on this fine Sunday. We have reached the end of the first half of the MLB season. 95 out of the 190 games have been played. We've reached the halfway point. That's why it's the first half. It's so very exciting to know that, the first half is over, but there's a whole nother half to be played. That's the same length as the first half, which is, very exciting.
Yeah. There's 81 games left still.
Yeah.
There's they're
and 81 games have been played.
Yeah, and 81 games have been played. So yeah, that's awesome. Even though it all says all the wins and losses for every team add up to like 90 something, it's still
plus.
Like, don't worry about that. It's the first half.
Yeah, don't pay attention to it. But yeah, no, the first half has come and gone. I don't know about you, but this has been an insanely quick MLB season for me.
Yeah, no, it's I
felt that way.
I feel like every year at this point we're like, yeah, it's gonna, this is really passed us by a little bit, but yeah, it's I can definitely feel a little bit. But yeah, so it is the halfway point, allegedly. We will be talking about some first half awards, and which are not actually a thing, but it's a fun thing to talk about of who would be the MVP or the Cy Young right now in each league, and Manager of the Year, Rookie of the Year, things like that. But yeah, tonight we had the draft. Did we want to get into the draft now a little bit?
I'll touch just a little bit on one part of the draft. We'll have more draft coverage later with a guest, ideally, but with someone who knows a little bit more than both of us do. But I did just want to shout out Travis Bazzana, who was the first overall pick made tonight by the Cleveland Guardians. Made a lot of history tonight. Not only was he the first second baseman to ever get taken number 1 overall, but he was also the first Australian player to be taken in the first round of the draft. And again, he went number 1 overall. So Travis Bazzana, if you haven't heard his name, you've probably never listened to this podcast before because I've talked about him at length on several different episodes. But he is a very special player. And I mean, it did not surprise me to see him getting taken number 1 tonight, obviously. I had the privilege of watching him and getting to know him a little bit last year during my internship with the Cape Cod League. He's a really impressive guy. He's very driven. He came over from Australia to go to Oregon State, which is not commonplace exactly. Normally if you're from Australia and you get major league offers at age 16, you take those. But he bet on himself, went to college, and clearly was much, much better for it. I mean, he was not, he's going to get like a $10 million signing bonus or whatever it will be with Cleveland or somewhere in that ballpark. And that obviously was never going to happen. And grown so much as a player. One thing that I asked him about last summer when I talked to him was, what were some things that he wanted to improve on? And he talked to me about even further improving his, strikeout and walk numbers, even though they were already fantastic. And he did that. In his first 2 years at Oregon State, Travis Bazzana hit a total of 17 home runs in 124 games. In 2024, he played 60 games and hit 28 home runs. He well more than doubled his home run total. So the power was very much there. He went to Driveline over the offseason, and I think that played a major role for him. And in 2023, he walked 59 times and struck out 47 times. This year, he walked 76 times and struck out 37 times. So everything that he told me last year he wanted to improve on in his junior season, he did in such a significantly noticeable way. And, that's eventually what leads him to being the number 1 overall pick. Fantastic player, excellent human being, like not enough good things that I can say about the guy. And anyone that I know that's talked to him will tell you the same thing. So, I'm very excited to see that he went number one overall. And yeah, no, it was very cool to watch.
Yeah, very exciting, very exciting. And yeah, the last time a Oregon State Beaver went number one overall was Adley Rutschman, and it's
That's true.
worked out
He's also
fantastic
going
for
to be
both of them.
he's also going to be teammates with another former Oregon State Beaver that played with Adley over in Corvallis, and that was Stephen Kwan.
Yes,
So they're going to
indeed.
be teammates now, which is very fun.
It is very fun. It is very fun. And yeah, kind of a similar style, except Bazzana has obviously shown a little bit more pop, but obviously Quan is showing the ability to hit what
Yeah,
350 at the major league level.
yeah, right.
So yeah, it's yeah, exciting for Cleveland, especially yeah, Bazzana's a guy, he's obviously out of college, so we're probably going to see him sooner than, if the number one overall pick was out of high school.
Oh,
Um
for sure.
yeah, so awesome stuff out of there. Yeah, if you haven't read Daniel's article about Travis Bazzana, it's on the Cape Cod League website. You can go to Daniel's Twitter at Daniel_Curran. I just put it back out there, so just click the link
Yeah.
on that and get to learn a little bit more about the number one overall draft pick from the 2024 MLB Draft. Yeah, so anything more before we kind of get into these first half awards?
Yeah, I did just have one more point that I wanted to add. With the thing that drew me into picking Bazzana as the number one pick, I promise it had nothing to do with any sort of biases about me knowing him, but he always just felt like a Cleveland player to me. Like, he fits the mold of what the Cleveland Guardians look for in a player. He's a middle infielder. He hits for contact. He doesn't strike out. Also happens to hit for power too. But I mean, he hit 407 this year. So that's definitely a large part of it. He can play multiple positions. He had a little bit of outfield time in the Cape Cod League last year. I don't know if he played any outfield for the Beavers, but it just felt right. And Dan O'Dowd actually said the very same thing in his analysis of Bazzana tonight. Or no, Harold Reynolds did. Harold Reynolds said he fits the Cleveland model. So it felt pretty rewarding to hear the national analysis say the same thing that I had been saying for a while as well.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, just an on-base machine, 568 on-base percentage this past season at Oregon State. And then yeah, you pair that with a 911 slugging, that's going to result in a 1479 OPS, which is unbelievable at any level, never
Yeah, and in
mind.
the last year, the Pac-12 too, to have a player go number one in the country,
Yeah.
out of one of the two teams that will remain in the
Yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed.
very
Very,
cool.
very cool moment, very cool NCAA moment there. But yeah, so yeah, the now with the draft, obviously I think we talked about it last year. It's very cool that the draft now kind of coincides with All-Star Weekend and is just a little bit
Yes.
more of an event. And we kind of know these guys a little bit more in their backstory, whereas used to be, mid-June, sometime in the middle of the week, and no one was really paying attention except for the real
Yeah.
hardcore people.
That, and I think it's also excellent that college baseball is definitely becoming, a lot bigger than it has been in past years. I mean, Paul Skeens especially, I think, is helping this a lot, right? Like, the draft, you might see next year's All-Star Game starter,
Yeah.
get taken tonight because that's what Paul Skeens did. Last year, of course, I don't think any prospect in this year's draft had quite the level of hype that Paul Skeens had going into last year's draft, and that's okay because I mean, everyone's been saying biggest pitching prospect and Steven Strasburg. He certainly has lived up to that immediately. And I wonder if he will appear in any of our first half awards tonight.
Yeah, it is very, very possible. Because yeah, and yeah, with the MLB draft thing, like why people weren't really paying attention to it was like, with the NFL and NBA, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna see this guy in action very soon. With the MLB now, that's a little bit more of it's not, the exact thing. There's still the high schoolers that aren't going to play for 4 years, but it's a little bit more prevalent, and guys are going through the system a little bit faster than they used to. Um, at least the real upper echelon of players that are getting selected tonight. But yeah, so yeah, without further ado, we have the first half awards. We'll start off with the rookies of the year, and we'll start off in the junior circuit with the American League, which is a interesting race. I think it was a little less interesting maybe a few weeks ago, but the leading candidate has kind of dropped off in performance a little bit recently, so it's made it a little bit more interesting. But who do you have as your first half American League Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna stick with the the front runner for much of the season. I think it's still Mason Miller's award as of right now, and that could certainly change. But I mean, 1.7 FWAR as a reliever, the highest position player rookie FWAR is 2.1. And Mason Miller has obviously accumulated 1.7 and much less, time on the field. I mean, he was the best closer in baseball for a while. Obviously he fell a little back down to earth because he had like a negative FIP going into like May, which is pretty ridiculous. He's an all-star this year, not just because the A's needed a representative. He would have been an all-star on any team. He's a guy that everyone's excited to watch pitch. He comes in and throws 103 miles an hour with some good breaking stuff as well. And it feels like he's going to be an exciting guy to watch. And he's also definitely, I think, the newest like member of this like sort of new era of electrifying closers that throw hard. You think of like the Clases of the world. You think of the Johan Durans of the world, the Andres Munoz, the Ryan Helsleys of the world. And Mason Miller is right up there with them, maybe even above them in terms of velo.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're he's becoming sort of one of the standards of MLB relievers right now. Maybe I'm looking into this in a strange direction and maybe looking at more value, but I have Luis Heel is my AL Rookie of the Year. It could change, depending on trends and whatnot. Because I don't really think he's gonna end up winning Rookie of the Year based on, it just seemed like he was doing too well for too long. But why I have Luis Heel, he is the leader among all AL rookies at all positions in BWAR and FWAR, and he leads in innings and strikeouts. Low threes ERA, low threes expected ERA, with the workload to back it up. Has over 100 innings, so he's been a regular. He's been there. He's been a large part of the reason why the Yankees have been successful. So yeah, I have Luis Heel there. Although based on Mason Miller's underlying numbers, his on the surface numbers could or at least his ERA could come down a good bit, and make his case a little bit more compelling. And I could see him taking it. Yeah, and yeah, did we want to also put who we think we will win by the end of the year?
Yeah, I'll stick with Mason Miller on this one. I think Colton Cowser is also a good option as well.
Yeah, I actually
Jordan Westberg.
I initially put Cowser as who I thought would win by the end of the year, but looking at Mason Miller's peripherals, just it's going to be hard for him not to take. I imagine a sub-2 ERA. I imagine he's going to get the save totals. I imagine he, will have the crazy strikeout rate, and it's not a most valuable rookie award. He will probably end up being the most outstanding rookie. So yeah, that's why I'll put Mason Miller. I was gonna
the only caveat is, are we so sure he's going to be in the American League by the end of the season?
That is true. That is a thing.
I don't think the A's will trade him, but you can't really say definitively for sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, that is a factor. And yeah, there's a case to think maybe Colton Cowser can win it by the end of the year because he's underperforming his expected metrics by a decent bit.
Yeah, I think Colton Cowser definitely has a better shot of just running away with it because he's a position player, right? Like if he puts up like another good month in either August or September, it feels like it's his.
Right, exactly. And yeah, he's like been maybe the best corner outfielder defensively by outs above average and stuff. So he's got that on his plate as well. But yeah, Mason Miller is definitely an intriguing guy because of just how dominant he's been in the ninth inning. Yeah, and now on to National League Rookie of the Year. Who do you got?
So my pick, again, we're not going with who we think is going to win it for right now. We're going with who it ended today. And I'm gonna go with Joey Ortiz from the Milwaukee Brewers. He came over as, one of the pieces in the Corbin Burns trade, and he's been one of the most dynamic players in Major League Baseball throughout this year. His weighted runs created plus has kind of stayed in the 120s through much of this year. He's playing good defense. He's running the bases well, and he's been, maybe the most valuable player on the Brewers. I mean, he's already at 2.3 FWAR. Through just 76 games this year, and obviously there's a lot more, but his walk to strikeout numbers are very good. He's hitting, his BABIP isn't even crazy high. It's only 295. So there's a sense that there could even be some more coming. But he's just been such a dynamic player, and he's meant so much to a Brewers team that is, kind of unexpectedly running away with the division more than most other teams in the league. So I'm going to go with Joey Ortiz as my, if the season ended today, National League Rookie of the Year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of good candidates for what would currently be the National League Rookie of the Year. Obviously Ortiz is a good option. Michael Busch is a good option. Shota Imanaga is also a good option. I am going with maybe the popular vote here, but I'm going with Paul Skeens. Just, even though he has not had the same workload as the other three candidates, I just think he's been that good. Sub 2 ERA, and in fact, among National League rookies with 50 plus innings pitched, he has the lowest ERA, lowest expected ERA, and FIP. And he has the highest strikeout rate and highest strikeout minus walk rate among National League rookies with 50 plus innings pitched. In terms of him versus Imanaga, Imanaga has thrown 30 and 2/3 more innings pitched, which I get, and workload does matter, but he has allowed 18 more earned runs. So for that 30 and 2/3 more innings pitched, that's a 5.28 ERA worth of extra earned runs. So that's kind of below replacement, and it brings that workload value down a little bit as opposed to what it would be. But yeah, so I got Paul Skeens. If it was a most valuable rookie thing, I would probably go with someone else, but I think he's been the best. And I think by the end of the year, he will also win the award.
Yeah, I mean, I think to say that anyone else other than Paul Skeens is going to win it would be a hot take at this point. I think pretty clearly Paul Skeens has it in the bag as long as he just continues to do even a fraction of what he's been doing. I mean, if the season started on May 11th, I know that's such a cheap thing to say, especially because, there's no specific reason he didn't start the season in the majors other than the Pirates wanted to give him a couple more innings, in Indianapolis. But I mean, he's been one of the most valuable pitchers, not just in the National League, but in all of baseball ever since he's started his big league career. Obviously, multiple starts of 10 plus strikeouts and no hits allowed. He's also just brings so much to baseball. I think Paul Skeens is kind of, he's getting people that don't care that much about baseball and pay attention more to other sports to understand how good he is and what he's been doing. When you think about guys that are able to do that, it's Shohei Ohtani, it's Aaron Judge. For a brief moment in time last year, it was Elly De La Cruz, and it's Paul Skeens. Yeah. And I don't know the last time we've seen a pitcher that other than Ohtani when he, was doing both, that was just such a show-stopping force on the mound that you absolutely had to tune in anytime he was on, especially in their rookie season. And Paul Skeens has been, the thing that I said was, I don't know the last time we've seen a top prospect, a top of the line, you got to see this guy type of prospect come up to the big leagues and immediately exceed expectations. The one guy that sort of comes to mind is Adley Rutschman, but even he struggled in his first few games.
Yeah. He probably wasn't an above average hitter until maybe a month into his career, whereas Paul Skeens, I mean, second start was 6 innings.
Yeah, his first start was okay-ish, not fantastic, but
then he ramped things up. He's been absolutely excellent.
Yeah, Adley had a 702 OPS in his first 14 career games.
Right.
Which is the equivalent of 3 starts for Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
And by that point, he was already appointment television.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we both think he will take it by year's end. Um,
Also,
so
I
yeah.
totally just searched at least 2024 game logs and not 2022.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, Adley Rutschman had a 684 OPS in his first 28 career games.
yeah, right.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, on to America. Yeah, our favorite awards, Manager of the
Yes.
Year. Don't have to speak to.
Can we just do AL and NL? Because I feel like
Yeah,
we have to have the same picks, right?
possibly. I didn't really know who to go with for NL, but AL, I
Okay.
think we would agree.
I went with Stephen Vogt and Pat Murphy.
Um, Pat Murphy with
The
Milwaukee.
Brewers, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a good bit of sense. For AL, I went Stephen Vogt. And for NL, I went. Maybe I was disregarding the Brewers too much because they were in first place last year, but I went with Rob Thompson.
That's a good
Because
pick.
they outperformed they outperformed expectations, and they're outperforming what they did last year. With I do actually have a little bit of data on Stephen Vogt, because we talked about um the Guardians on the legitness test, and why and how things there may have actually been some influence that he had, or the just organization had, on the Guardians this year, because the Guardians have gone from pulling 23% of their fly balls last year to 30% this year. And
Yeah.
they've gone from a 5.2% pulled fly ball rate on batted balls to 7.7%. And they've gone from being last in ISO to top 10. So they're lifting the ball more, and they're hitting fly balls in better places, and it's resulting in more power for them. And it's made them go from last in isolated power to top 10 in isolated power. And isolated power kind of takes away the effect of slugging. You can kind of on base your way to having a good slugging. You can get enough singles to get a good slugging. ISO kind of takes that away. So it just shows how good the Guardians have been at just strictly power.
Yeah. I know I keep asking these, like, when was the last time you saw this type questions, but like, when was the last time you saw a new manager come in and the team had such a visible change in like hitting philosophy, basically,
Yeah,
or pitching or whatever, like a new manager, not a new pitching coach, not a new hitting coach, but a new manager comes in and the same team, the same roster has a completely different approach and it's working to this degree.
yeah, no, not since I started really paying attention to Statcast data. So,
Mhm.
um, not not for a very long time, that's for sure.
So I guess I could kind of just take this time to talk a little bit about what Pat Murphy has done. Another first year manager, much like Stephen Vogt. And, the team, obviously they did go to the playoffs last year, but, they traded Corbin Burns. They found out they weren't going to be getting Brandon Woodruff back, which was, something that they had hoped for. Well, I guess they didn't find that out. I think he had Tommy John last year. But they signed Brandon Woodruff knowing that he wasn't going to be available. They put out an opening day rotation of like what Freddie Peralta, Colin Ray, DL Hall, Joe Ross. They've had to have Dallas Keuchel make 4 starts for them. They've thrown a bunch of randoms on a baseball field seemingly, and they've got a lot of production at a lot of places you weren't ready for. Like Bryce Terang has been one of the most efficient hitters in baseball and one of the overall best second basemen, a guy that you could argue should have been an all-star this year. They've had a lot of defensive improvements. Chorio has struggled a bit offensively, but he's kind of finding his footing in the majors. And the team's been basically locked in first place in the NL Central the entire season. I mean, they started out by sweeping the Mets. I don't know if they've had a single day this year where they haven't been in first place. Uh, right?
Yeah, it's tough to think. If it was sometime in April, I would imagine.
Okay, they were tied at 4-1. Or no, sorry, they were. Wait, what? How are they 0.5 back? Oh, because they. Okay, technically they were 0.5 back because they got rained down on opening day, and like another team went 2-0 and they went 1-0. That
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
count. That's stupid. They've been in first every day, at least in a tie since April 12th.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, they've been and they have one of the larger division leads in baseball. the rest of the division is very compact together, all within like 3 games of each other or so. Brewers are 4.5 ahead of the Cardinals, so not too out ahead, but I mean, they've been comfortably there all year, and I think Pat Murphy deserves some credit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because yeah, I mean, he also was filling in the shoes of a guy who is widely regarded as one of the best managers in baseball, if not
Yeah,
the
who
best
left for a lot of
manager in
money.
baseball. Yeah, who went to the rival, and yeah, now the Brewers are up, 7 or 8 games on them. Yeah, my pick was Rob Thompson. I mean, it's I don't really have anything analytical to say on that. It's just like they were kind of consensus, they'll be a playoff team, but they're not touching the Braves. And I think we both agreed on that. And we've been wrong about it so far. They're way up on the Braves right now. They've been the best team record wise in the National League by a decent bit now, outdoing the Dodgers. I think they won a series against the Dodgers too, which is very nice. Earlier in the season, they had not played a whole lot of stiff competition, but I think they've been doing decent against stiffer competition as of late. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to end up winning it. If the Brewers continue their success, maybe it'll go to Pat Murphy. And I think by the end of the year, I think it will go to Rob Thompson, but I think there are interesting candidates in Murphy, but also maybe Carlos Mendoza from the Mets or Derek Shelton for the Pirates, because the Pirates are kind of heating up right now. They're not far out of the playoff race. So
there's a lot of guys that could swipe. Like I don't feel confident in either of these picks
yeah,
that they would end
exactly.
up with it. Like Alex Cora looks pretty good right now for the Red Sox.
Yeah, very
Like Matt
true.
Contraro from the Royals, if they make the playoffs, would be a good one. Maybe
Right.
Scott Service if the Mariners can fend off the Astros and win the division.
Yeah,
Maybe Joe
yeah,
Espada for, bring his team back from being 12 games under 500 in his first year as a manager.
yeah. There's lots of cases to be made.
Yeah.
That is for sure. So yeah, um on
Cy
to
Young.
AL Cy Young. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the guy that I believe was your preseason pick, Tarek Skubal, right? That was your pick?
Yes.
Yeah, Pablo Lopez has not worked out, unfortunately. He's been getting BABIPs and NXVIPs all over the place. But Tarek Skubal is not. He has been exactly as advertised. We were kind of seeing, we were saying last year, he looked really good in that shortish sample that wasn't really that short. And, is that really who he could be in a full season if he stays healthy? And the answer is absolutely yes. He leads all American League pitchers in ERA at 241 right now. He has an excellent strikeout to walk ratio, a 47% ground ball rate, and then his FIP is at 257. That is second in the American League, only to Garrett Crochet. Yeah, I mean, he's been such a dynamic pitcher at all levels this year, leading the American League, or sorry, second in the American League with a 26.2% K rate minus walk rate. His average against is 189. That's the lowest in the American League. Yeah, I don't know. There's really not much else to say. I mean, Tarek Skubal has been exactly as advertised, which has been, I think, one of the more fun developments in baseball this year to look at this potential breakout that we saw last year and say, okay, it's real. This is who he is.
Yeah, it's good to see it take place, especially 2022, he had a pretty decent year, but done after 117 innings. Last year, he only throws 80. Fingers crossed he maintains it, but he's at 116 this year and, could potentially be, having a full season out there, which is awesome. I also have Tarek Skubal as the AL Cy Young at this point. I think, as you mentioned, he has the lowest ERA among all AL qualifiers. And he also has the second lowest expected ERA and second lowest FIP among those qualifiers. There might be a case for Garrett Crochet strictly based on peripherals, but Skubal does have 8 2/3 more innings pitched than Crochet in one less start and 6.1 innings per start as opposed to Garrett Crochet's 5.4. So yeah, I think Tarek Skubal is the front runner here. Believed in him before the season, and he's really hasn't. He's only boosted his case in the first half here, and I think he will win it by year's end because that ERA is low enough, the peripherals are there, the workload is there. So if he just keeps that up, I think he will have a fairly not a comfortable route to winning the Cy Young because he's been that excellent. So yeah, on to the National League Cy Young.
Yeah, I'm going with a blast from the past. This guy's never won a Cy Young despite many different close calls, and I think this could be the year for Chris Sale because he is looking really good in Atlanta right now. You know, where he's kind of been essentially the same guy that we got to know between the years of like 2015 through 18 with the White Sox and the Red Sox. I mean, he's striking guys out at an elite rate. He's walking guys at a very strong rate, under 2 walks per 9. He's keeping it to the park. The slider is still moving the same way it always did. You know, he's the major league leader in FIP at 2.21. Only ranks 8th in the National League in ERA at 274. So if there's a case against him, it might be that. Or sorry, 8th in the major leagues in ERA at 274. I thought my thing had filtered to just National League. He's 3rd in the NL. Which is still very good, losing to only Reynaldo Lopez and Zach Wheeler. But yeah, I mean, we've seen, very much the vintage Sale, the guy that's striking a lot of guys out, keeping it in the zone, getting a lot of whiffs, especially on that slider. And yeah, I mean, I think this might be the year that we finally see a Cy Young for him and, a remarkable comeback story.
Yeah, indeed. He's already pretty much kind of wrapped up comeback player of the year, unless I'm not thinking of someone right. But yeah, I have Chris Sale as this year's first half NL Cy Young as well. Yeah, as you mentioned, lowest FIP and also the highest strikeout minus walk rate among NL qualifiers. And that includes stats from today because he did go 5 innings, 1 run today, where, yeah, he lowered that ERA to 2.70. Yeah, he's I think you
As with Wheeler.
Yeah, I think you said it best. In terms of the end of the year winner, I think if he makes all his starts, he'll probably win it. But I think I'm just looking at this, and I know this is the most he's already thrown the most innings he's thrown since 2019. So it might be hard for him to keep up that workload, but fingers crossed he does. If he doesn't keep up that workload, I think it's going to Zach Wheeler. Because he has the ERA, he has the workload as well. And we've seen Zach Wheeler go out and consistently throw 200 inning seasons. So yeah, that's or near 200 inning seasons. I think he's hit 200 once or something like that, but he's always been able to get a lot of innings. But yeah, that's the National League Cy Young. On to American League MVP.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I made these picks like yesterday night, and they very well could have changed by now. I put Gunnar Henderson, but like the answer could be Aaron Judge now. It's basically a flip-flop every day. So I'll just take this opportunity to talk about Gunnar Henderson because at this point, I think no one's really going to get upset over me naming him the first half American League most valuable player. At least no one's going to blame me because I mean, what a remarkable breakout it has been. We saw it last year, especially towards the end of the season. And I mean, he has been, again, such a dynamic offensive prowess for the Orioles. He's pulling the ball a lot more, especially in the air, which is exciting. He's making a lot of louder contact. He's playing better defense. He's running the bases even better. Like just about everything that he's doing is, just as good, if not better than it was last year in his rookie of the year season. But I mean, top 10 percentile in expected WOBA, expected batting average, xSlug, average exit velocity, bat speed, hard hit rate, chase rates. He's doing pretty much everything at the plate for the Orioles. And again, playing, superb defense, being one of the best base runners in the league. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say, but Gunnar Henderson, I think there's certainly a strong case at just age 23 already that he's been the American League MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, obviously making the transition to shortstop just seamlessly. I know he was a shortstop coming up, but
that too.
He was mostly third base last year, so he's become a near Gold Glove quality, if not Gold Glove quality, shortstop just this year, which is pretty remarkable, as well as obviously the 28 home runs that he has. My American League MVP, as it stands right now, is Aaron Judge.
I'm glad we could go over both cases.
Yeah, he He has over 120 more points of OPS than the next best AL hitter. Obviously, hitting is not everything in this race. That's why Gunnar Henderson is a good candidate, because he has wonderful,
Defense base running.
Yeah, great defense and very good base running as well. Double digits in stolen bases and whatnot, and has the extra base taken rate to go with it. But yeah, excellent defense on his part as well. But yeah, with Aaron Judge, he has been by far the best hitter in baseball. He leads in home runs, he leads in RBI, and he also leads all American leaguers in FWAR. At least that was as of the live stats today. So maybe the FWAR advantage did it for me. As it was today, I think he hit a couple extra home runs this weekend, which helped his case. But yeah, it'll be down to the wire. But I think Aaron Judge is going to take it by the end of the year, because if they have similar wins above replacement, I think the voters are always going to go with the guy who had the offense. So they'll just go with Aaron Judge.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's going to be a dead heat between both of them in terms of the end of the year. I mean, I know Bobby Witt's right there. I know, Juan Soto is close by, but I think this has to come down to Judge versus Gunnar.
Yeah, it should be interesting. If I think I trust Judge to sustain it more, even though obviously his stats are so otherworldly. But we've seen him, we've seen him stick it out for a full season. And
yeah, I mean, like if this is anything like 2022, like his hottest stretch is yet to come.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be very exciting, especially they're competing for the top of the AL East too. So it adds.
I wonder if it'll be like a pre-2000 situation where the writers just give it to whoever's team wins the division.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't look at anything else. It's like, I was too close. Well, Judge's team won, so he was more valuable to his team.
Yeah, it might actually.
Honestly, I mean, if we're talking value to your team, it has to be Judge. Because I mean, I think objectively the Yankees would be much worse off without Aaron Judge than the Orioles would be without Gunnar Henderson.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at all the infield options they have in the Orioles organization. Whereas
but that's also not really in either of their controls.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, on to National League MVP.
Yeah. I am going to go with the boring pick here, but I'm standing by it. I think Shohei Ohtani has been the most valuable player in the National League, despite only being a DH, despite undergoing UCL surgery and recovering from that throughout the year, despite, playing under the immense pressure of having just signed the largest contract in North American sports history, despite this season beginning with him being involved in a scandal involving a $16 million theft, despite losing his best friend, a former trusted friend of his. Shohei Ohtani has remained Shohei Ohtani to the best of his own abilities. Of course, he hasn't remained exactly himself in the sense that he's not on the mound, but he is the exact same guy that he's been at the plate. His weighted runs created plus this year, it was 180 last year. It is 186 this year. Even though his offensive stuff is down across the board, it's the league-wide stuff. That's why. But he's still hitting the ball harder than anyone else. Not quite harder than anyone else, but 95.3 miles per hour of average exit velocity. He's averaging a hard hit ball. His barrel rate is 19.6%, which is second only to Aaron Judge. He's walking just as much as he used to. He's literally been the best hitter in the National League without a doubt. Obviously, being a DH, there's only so much you can really do on defense. In fact, there's really nothing you could do, but his base running is actually taken a step up. He's at 3.2 BSR this year, which is excellent, and that's helped elevate his FWAR to be 5.2 to this point. So, despite everything, I think Shohei Ohtani is still very much there.
Yeah, I have learned my lesson with Shohei Ohtani, and that's never to doubt Shohei Ohtani, because he's just when you think maybe the chips are down, maybe he's not a pitcher right now, so obviously he's less valuable, and still technically a little less valuable, but he's improved other parts of his game. League wide, he led, I think, all of MLB in OPS last year, and he led all of MLB in OPS plus, and it's better now. That's absolutely absurd. Usually, I figured, normally a guy has a crazy year, they take maybe a step back the next year. Not the case with Shohei Ohtani. He's only built on that. His average exit velocity, which was a career high last year, has only gone up, which is absolutely crazy. He's improved his base running. He's the only player in MLB with a 2020 season so far. He's probably going to be 30-30. There's potential for 40-40. That's absolutely nuts. And yeah, in terms of why he's the most valuable in the NL, he leads the National League in F4 this year, despite being a DH, and he also leads in home runs. Which adds to his offensive strengths or his offensive resume. So yeah, he's been the most valuable player. And whether you look at his hitting, whether you look at total wins above replacement, which doesn't favor DHs, still it's him at the top at the National League. It's absolutely absurd. This like even though he's not pitching right now, there's an argument to say this is the most impressive Shohei Ohtani's been, because we didn't expect him to be this valuable still.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, yeah, leads the National League in F4 despite, not playing any defense.
Yeah.
And therefore having his defensive value be down.
Right. He has, Fangraphs has him at like -14.
And not having pitching
runs
to uplift him.
Yeah, -14 defensive runs above average or something like that, and he's still killing it. Still on pace for almost a 9-win season, I think. Crazy. So yeah, that does it for the first half awards. Anything more before we get into players to highlight?
No, we got a home run derby and all-star game.
Oh yeah, true.
That's coming up.
Yes, we do.
Dallas, Texas.
On to the home run derby. Yeah. Who are the candidates again?
All right, so we got Pete Alonso, Alec Boehm, Adolis Garcia in his own ballpark, Gunnar Henderson, Teoscar Hernandez, Marcelo Zuna, Jose Ramirez, and Bobby Witt Jr. And the way that it's working this year, there's no seeding in the first round. It's all 8 go. The top 4 advance, and they go bracket style from there.
Right. Yeah, and it's going to be a little bit different this year. Who do you think? Who are you most excited about in this bracket?
There's a lot of people being like, this derby isn't the greatest. It doesn't have like that showstopper, like the guy that you're like, oh my god, this guy's on, we gotta watch. And I disagree. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the guy that I'm most excited to watch on the derby is none of the 8 guys that I just mentioned, because we get the return of one of the home run derby's greatest legends this year. I'm talking about Dave Joust. He is coming back in 2024 to pitch to Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has never lost a home run derby with Dave Joust pitching to him. He is 2-0 with Joust, 0-2 without Joust. He uses aimbot on his pitches, I swear. If you look at like the 2021 home run derby and look at where like each of the pitches thrown to Pete Alonso were, it's literally just one dot, but like 60 times in a row. That's because Dave Joust had picture perfect aim. And he's going to be pitching to Pete Alonso this year, and that's the performance that I am most excited to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna, just for visual reference, I'm gonna share that.
that visual, yeah.
Yeah, Above Replacement Radio YouTube. Check out Dave Joust's pitch chart from the 2021 Home Run Derby. It is the exact spot he wants it every single time. Maybe, I don't know what the diameter on that range is. It's not more than a few inches. It's absolutely insane. I actually did not know that. So that's big news. That's help in Pete Alonso's case for winning again.
Yeah, I mean, are you excited for Jose Ramirez?
A little bit. It's just like, I think it's not something he's really designed to do particularly well in. Like I've looked at, okay, who has won, who's had success, and it's usually the guys who hit the ball really, really hard, have a really, really high barrel rate. Jose Ramirez, like the way he hits home runs is he plays the ballpark, he hits it down lines, just finds the perfect spot to hit his fly balls. That's not necessarily like what's going to carry over into the home run derby. Like he'll get his home runs, but he won't have as much in the tank like later on. He won't have where, he needs to have his full effort, I think, to hit home runs, whereas Pete Alonso doesn't necessarily have to do that. So I'm excited to see Jose Ramirez. I hope the best for him, but I don't know if it's the event where we're going to see his true greatness, but I'm excited that he is involved anyway.
Yeah, something that, people have done in many years past to try and sort of predict the outcome of the home run derby is using a lot of the stats that you just mentioned, the or the Statcast stuff with, barrel rates and exit velocities and stuff to try to predict the way that the home runs will be hit and who can hit the most and whatnot. This is the first year that we have bat tracking, and I'm very curious if that's going to if there might be any sort of correlation between what the bat tracking metrics say and the results of the home run derby. I'm putting everyone in the derby into the search right now because I do want to see where everyone ranks in all that.
Yeah, I'm seeing Pete Alonso is 90th percentile right now. So that's him.
All right, so I got the rankings right here. Gunnar Henderson has the fastest bat speed in the group at 75.9 miles per hour. Pete Alonso's at 75.1. Then Bobby Witt Jr., Marcelo Zuna, Teoscar Hernandez, Alec Bohm, Adolis Garcia, and then Jose Ramirez is ninth or is eighth.
Yeah, that's why I'm not necessarily like, oh yeah, Jose Ramirez is gonna dominate. Like,
yeah,
he's best, at the game of baseball. But I don't see him, being a champion. But hey, lots of people doubt Jose Ramirez and are wrong about it. So I could be the next one. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, Adolis Garcia, I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, had a good performance last year.
I think he lost in the first round to Randy Rosarena, but was still entertaining. And he's also going to be in his home ballpark this year, which is very exciting. It's always, I don't know, it does feel good to see at least one guy that the hometown crowd is supporting.
Yeah, I feel like they always pick one guy.
Yeah, I know it hasn't been the best year for him. By no means is he all-star worthy. I also do wonder how much trouble MLB had with getting guys this. I would have to imagine Ellie De La Cruz was asked and said no.
Right, which is funny because I remember when we watched the Statcast broadcast 3 years ago, and they broke down the home run derby myth. Players don't statistically, players don't actually get worse after the home run derby.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a case of getting worse. I feel like guys are just tired. They've been, playing for all that time. And it's the home run derby is so out of your routine. It's not something that people just do. And I would imagine it takes a lot more stamina than, in terms of a single act more than anything that you do during the regular Major League Baseball season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're out there.
If you're a guy like Ellie De La Cruz, you're this is your first full 162 grind. So I don't know, maybe in another year, but this year is, I think, clearly not the one for him. And I mean, I do wonder, and this is a whole different, can of worms, but how many people had to say no before they were all right, I guess we got to ask Marcelo Zuna.
Yeah. Right.
Because, I don't think anyone outside of Atlanta is rooting for him. I think everyone is probably rooting against him because it's not a very fun storyline if he wins.
Yeah, no, that is very very accurate statement. Yeah, no, but yeah, it can be tiring, and especially I forget how quick the turnaround is because I was remembering oh, there's no Sunday Night Baseball game, and I was like, oh yeah, every at least one person from every team is gonna have to go get on a plane right now and go over and do media, all that stuff, and go to the home run derby. And those participants are going to have to, get fresh, get ready to go. Which I forget how quick of a turnaround that is, especially for the participants.
Yeah.
But yeah, any predictions for who's going to win it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two guys that pretty clearly have the best chances are Pete Alonso and Gunnar Henderson. Pete largely because of Dave Joust, Gunnar because, all the statistics show that he's the guy that hits the ball the hardest, the furthest, the swings the bat the fastest, whatever you want it to be. He's also 23 years old and probably has more energy than much of anyone else in the group, sans Bobby Witt Jr. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Pete Alonso. I mean, he's never lost with Dave Joust, and he's back this year. I don't know if the dimensions necessarily favor a certain handed hitter at Globe Life
Right.
Field. I can check that. Let's check the home run to fly ball ratio. Because I'm assuming, I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that, everyone's going to pull the ball. That's usually how people do it in the home run derby, as they should.
Yeah, it is 329 down the line in left, 326 down the line in right, 372 to left center, 374 to right center. So it seems fairly even.
Yeah, I'm gonna check the home run to pulled fly ball ratio
Yeah,
from right and left-handed batters
that'll be
at
interesting.
Globe Life Field.
The day the All-Star game comes back to Camden, we're in trouble.
Yeah, oh my
Trouble.
God. Can you imagine? I was thinking about that like the other day.
Yeah, it's gonna
Like
be all
how many,
lefties, no doubt.
yeah, I was just saying like how many righties are gonna be like, let me do that.
They should split it and they should do a lefty home run derby
They
and a
should
righty
they
home
should
run
just bring
derby.
back the old fence. Okay, so the home run to pulled fly ball ratio at Globe Life Field for right-handed batters is 19.6%. And for left-handed batters, wait, did I do the search right? I don't know if I did. Is
That might seem right.
19%. Is 19%. So let me add something here.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
no, I
pulled
didn't.
fly balls, so
Okay,
it should
no,
be
sorry.
above normal.
It is 41.6% for lefties. I forgot to add a pitch parameter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 41.6% for lefties, 36.3% for righties.
So a little bit more lefty friendly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Still, Pete Alonso and Dave Joust is just an unstoppable
I would say I'm
combination.
still going with Pete Alonso.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
mean,
not.
do yourself a
I mean,
favor,
you definitely can't not, but
go back to the 2021 home run derby, watch his performance. Because I
yeah.
remember, I'm pretty sure the guy he beat in the first round had the second most homers in the in the round, but he lost to Pete Alonso.
2021 was such a good field.
Oh yeah.
Like
Shohei, Soto.
Soto, yeah, Alonso, Joey Gallo, Matt Olson
Yeah.
at Coors Field nonetheless. Salvador Perez was in it too.
Yeah, that was sick. That was pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, All-Star game our we manifested it. Paul Skeens is starting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, necessary move for sure. I don't really know. I mean, I think the biggest draw of the All-Star game this year is Paul Skeens facing, Gunnar Henderson, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto in that first inning. I assume that's the how the AL will line up.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, that's a matchup you want to see. And I mean, I don't know what team Soto's going to be on next year, but like that's
No.
the class of the AL right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we need a good All-Star game. We haven't had one in a while.
We're due as the old heads like to say, we're due. We're due for
Yeah.
one.
We're due
Um,
for like a good one. Like last year, I guess was like okay, like there was a go-ahead home run and that was cool, but like no one remembers Elias Diaz.
bench clearing brawl. I think that'll bring us back up
Bench clearing brawl in the All-Star
in the
game.
All-Star game.
Yeah.
Well, like three teammates are mic'd up and not paying attention in the field. Yeah, that's what's
Yeah,
gonna
they're
do it.
they're talking to like Teoscar Hernandez in left field, and all of a sudden,
Yeah,
like I don't know, Logan Webb and
yeah. All these guys
what
who
like
just
Jaron Duran are going at it.
yeah, all these guys who just became teammates 2 days ago and will not be teammates ever again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're like standing
that's
up for each other's guys.
yeah. We were on the same side of the field for the home run derby with I was playing with my
Who is
kid.
it that it'd be very funny if it's like the Yankees and Orioles had a benches clearing brawl this weekend, and it's like Gunnar Henderson gets hit by a pitch, and you have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto just like on the top step of the dugout,
Right.
ready to go to war with like Paul Skeens or whoever it is. It's
Yeah.
like that's my guy. You don't mess with my guy. That's my teammate.
We've been in the same clubhouse for like 36 hours.
Yeah, we've been
Um,
sharing the same field for the last like 4 days.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So if you want to get the kids involved, want to get the kids in the All-Star game, you got to have a bench clearing brawl.
Yeah.
I think that's the conclusion we came to.
Remember last year when Michael Lorenzen faced Geraldo Perdomo?
Oh my God, yeah.
That's my favorite screenshot from last year's All-Star game.
Well, even like, I don't know, that because whenever you like rewatch anything from the All-Star game, like the first few innings always sort of make sense. But I think MLB posted like Jacob deGrom's which obviously he earned going in the 2015 All-Star game, but I know he faced Jose Iglesias in there. He faced
in 2015, right?
Yeah, 2015. It was like Jason Kipnis,
Brock
Jose
Holt,
Iglesias.
or no, Brock Holt faced Chapman.
Who's the other guy? Yeah, it was another guy who,
I mean, Kipnis is like kind of understandable. He was, and Iglesias is probably there for his defense.
Right, but like I think I saw on Instagram.
Stephen Vogt, maybe.
Yes, it was Stephen Vogt.
It was Stephen Vogt, guy that we mentioned earlier in the episode.
Yeah, so it was Vogt, Iglesias.
Yeah, no, I remember. I remember in the 2016 All-Star game, there was like a bases loaded 2-out situation in like a big moment, and this was when the All-Star game still mattered. It was when it still determined home field in the World Series, and the matchup was Will Harris versus Aledmys Diaz.
Yeah, it's wild.
And Will Harris struck him out looking.
Right. Yeah, it's weird because
Okay. What do you know? Can you tell me what teams both of them played for at the time? I'm curious.
Well, I don't know. Will Harris, I only know him as an Astro and National. Was he on like the Twins or something?
He was on one of the two teams you just mentioned.
He was on the Astros.
And then where was Aledmys Diaz?
Cardinals, right?
He was. Yeah, it was Astros Cardinals.
That random year. Yeah, no. Yeah. It's always fun to be reminded because anytime you look at like classic All-Star game, Pedro set down, Larry Walker, Barry Larkin, Mark McGwire,
Matt Williams.
Yeah, Matt Williams. But
actually, I think Matt Williams is the one who got a hit off him.
Probably, yeah. But like you think of these like legendary, lineups. Look at like I think the 1998 AL All-Star lineup was like Kenny Lofton, Nomar. I imagine like Frank Thomas was in there or something.
Go back to like any All-Star game in the last decade. There'll be at least one starter, not even a reserve, one starter where you're like, that guy was like 2017. Justin Smoke started at first base for the AL.
Right, and it probably made sense.
I'm sure. I don't remember. Corey Dickerson started at DH for the AL with Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
same year.
He had a good year that year. I'm pretty sure
he did. Dude. You go back to any All-Star game in the last. I'm gonna do it. 2016. Jackie Bradley Jr. started in center field for the American League, and it made sense at the time, but just years later, you're like, wait, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Half the starting lineup was Cubs that year, 2016. Yeah. Let's go back. And we're the weird guys. Was that the year Nick Markakis was an All-Star, or was that 2019?
Could have been 19 or 18. Because I remember his Braves resurgence was around there.
The best Nick Markakis moment was when he took strike one.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Nick Markakis take strike one. Yeah.
It's forever attached to that. Nick Markakis started in right field for the National League in 2018. Who were some of the highlights? Actually, the entire AL makes total sense. Maybe like outside of Jose Abreu at first, but still pretty good. Actually everything in 2018 other than Nick Markakis like lines up kind of perfectly.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the one. 2019. Hyunjin Ryu on the mound for the National League.
Yeah, that's your ERA title.
I mean, look, deserved.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're like, wait, really? Hyunjin Ryu started. That's one of my favorites of all time. This was not in the last decade. Time I watched that clip of Torrey Hunter robbing Barry Bonds of a home run in 2002. It's the first inning, and Derek Lowe's on the mound. I'm like, Derek Lowe started an All-Star game.
Yeah.
That was a real thing that happened.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's a lot to do with scheduling, but still,
It's still very funny.
it's very funny. Yeah, he was probably just like 11-3, and they didn't care about his ERA.
Yeah.
Um,
Another good one from 2019. The AL starting shortstop was Jorge Polanco.
oh right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The Bomba squad year.
I remember back in like 2014, people were mad like that Derek Jeter was replaced in the fourth inning, and it was Alexi
Alexi
Ramirez,
Ramirez.
and he was actually more deserving that year because like, but people
Yeah.
put Jeter in because obviously it was his
It was
last
his
year.
last year and you had to have him. 2021 is a gold mine. Adam Frazier starting at second for the National League.
I mean, yeah, he was a great acquisition at the trade deadline.
Yeah. Um, Jesse Winker in left.
Um, oh yeah, right. I mean, he was. I mean, the fact his
No,
fall
like
has been
absolute
something.
again, like I'm not saying none of these guys are deserving. Like Jesse Winker was 100% like supposed to be there, but it's just so funny to be like, man, that was a starting all-star.
Yeah, bro fell off, as the kids would want to say.
Bro fell off.
My
Another
my
guy who fell
favorites
off.
my
Another guy who
favorite archetype is the reliever who wouldn't have been there if they're
oh, dude, Joe Jimenez.
yeah, Joe, like the Tigers had that.
The Tigers had a
I
streak of random relievers going to the All-Star game. Joe
yeah,
was there like twice.
yeah, Joe Jimenez was there multiple times. Gregory Soto was there multiple times.
Yeah.
He wasn't really dominating. It was like 5 years in a
I
row.
feel like a good way to measure is if you're a good team or not is do you have any All-Stars besides one reliever?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like if you have one All-Star and it's a starter or a position player, then fair enough.
Yeah,
But if it's a
despite
reliever,
yeah,
it's like, dude, you're not a good team.
yeah, despite the Red Sox, bad years, they still were able to find a reputable like position player like Brock Holt
Yeah.
that one year. But
Yeah. 2014, they had Lester, Koji, Dustin Pedroia, I think.
oh yeah, I forgot all those guys
Yeah.
went
Um,
there.
Speaking of guys who fell off, like you mentioned earlier, 2022, the starting shortstop was Tim Anderson.
Ooh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the NL starting 2021 is another good one. Uh, or sorry, this is 2022 rather. It's 2022, the NL starting second baseman, another guy who fell off, Jeff McNeil.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Starting left fielder was Jock Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then starting catcher was Alejandro Kirk.
Yeah. I mean,
He was good that year.
he was good that year, and he was young. He was
Last
young.
year, last year
He was
Jonah Heim
20
started
something.
behind the plate. Heck
Not
yeah.
been good this year.
Yeah, no. Um, oh yeah, there was so many Rangers last year. I forgot about that. Josh Young started at third. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Josh Young started at third. Austin Hayes started in center. That had to have been due to an injury.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Austin Hayes.
Oh, it
Yeah.
must have been Judge.
True.
It
True.
had to have been because the other two are Randy Rosarena and Adolis Garcia, and those make a little more sense. I don't know why was Austin Hayes an all-star? Was he good in the first half last year?
I don't know, but he's not even like in the lineup regularly now,
No, that's what I'm saying.
which is crazy. Yeah, no, it's always fun to reflect on those games.
Yeah, and that's
Remember?
that's that's the real All-Star game was looking back years later and being like, that guy was an All-Star.
Yeah, because when you look back at All-Star games, you find it to be like a time capsule of the great players of that day, but then there's also a couple random
Okay.
stragglers.
Austin Hayes, I owe you an apology. I was not familiar with your 853 OPS at the break last year.
Yeah, it's been downhill since, unfortunately, it
Yeah.
seems. Um, yeah, so yeah, we got the All-Star game in
Do we have
Arlington.
MVP predictions? Do we want to do that?
Oh, yeah. It's always random. I mean,
All right, I got the
shout out to you. You got Elias Diaz last year.
yeah, I
Who's
did
the
get
guy?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the fighting Spaldings taking it again.
Mhm.
I'm feeling a new streak coming on. I think Big Al is gonna rally the boys together and beat Ban again.
Yes.
For those of you that don't speak 1800s baseball, I'm talking the National League will win. And for MVP, I mean, the fun pick would be Paul Skeens because he strikes out the side. Oh, you know what? I'll do like a legit pick and then just like a fun pick.
Okay.
Like who's the reserve that's gonna hit the home run late? My actual pick in the National League, is going in terms of because I have the NL winning. So my MVP, I'm gonna go with Paul Skeens because it's the fun one, or because it's the legit one. And then for the fun one, for the random guy, we're gonna go with, you know what? We're just gonna say Pete Alonso, and everyone that said he shouldn't be in the All-Star game, including myself, is big mad.
Right. Yeah.
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 Home run derby and All-Star game MVP in the same 2 days.
I'll just throw out a random one since it's obvious. It's very hard to pick who will be the best in a certain game.
I put no thought into that, so yeah.
Yeah. My guy who popped off is Heliot Ramos. Guy's
sir.
electric.
Yes, sir.
He's one for a big moment, I think. So
Yeah.
I think he'll do it.
Yeah, for sure.
He's random enough. All right. Want to get into players to highlight?
Yes, I do.
All right. On to players to highlight, where we will start with the lows, we end with the highs. Now on to our Sunday, turning into Monday, July 15, 2024 edition of Slightly Alarming Statistics. He's been barreling up the ball way less.
He's not missing bats. He's not getting the ball on the ground, and people are hitting it in the air more.
It's been so bad. He is getting a
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, admittedly, I don't have a ton today. It's very late, and I had a 6-hour car ride today, so I didn't have a lot of time to write something down. But I got a couple notes on Anthony Volpe because he has been down in the dumps lately. I also made an error that cost his team the game today. So none of these are updated today, I will say. But since June 26th, Anthony Volpe is slashing 119, 157, 149 for a 306 OPS, a -14 weighted runs created plus, and 0.5 fWAR. Among the 177 qualifiers, he ranks second worst in average, second worst in OBP, second worst in slugging, second worst in OPS, second worst in weighted runs created plus, and is tied for the third worst in fWAR. Before the span, he had an average exit velocity of 87 miles per hour, and in the span, it is down to just 84.1 miles per hour. And also before the span, Volpe had a fly ball / pop-up rate of 23.1% with an average exit velocity of 89 miles per hour on those fly balls and pop-ups. And in the span, it's up to 25%, so it's around the same rate, but the average exit velocity is down to 82.3 miles per hour on his fly balls and pop-ups. So Anthony Volpe is hitting the ball in the air a bit too much. He's not hitting the ball as hard. And because of that, his results have gone quite by the wayside over the last couple of weeks.
Anthony Volpe is getting a
Slightly alarming.
Volpe started off the year hot, kind of showed what Yankees fans were hoping he was going to be, considering he was a top 5 prospect last year. Maybe a little bit of a bumpy road last year, just some initial rookie struggles as a 21-year-old, which is very understandable. So yeah, kind of having an up and down season right now. My slightly alarming, I'm sticking in the AL East. I'm talking about Jose Barrios of the Toronto Blue Jays, your April American League Pitcher of the Month, Jose Barrios, who's had a low ERA.
I can't believe he regressed.
Me neither. But yeah, he's been interesting. His first full year in Toronto was not good. Last year he was actually pretty decent, but this year he's been kind of where he was in his first full year in Toronto. And we forget he's kind of locked up long term in Toronto. So unfortunately, it's unfortunate that he hasn't really figured it out there. In his last 7 starts, Jose Barrios has a 6.52 ERA and 6.60 FIP. Out of 84 qualifiers in the span heading into today, he had the 3rd highest ERA and the highest FIP. Out of 86 pitchers with 500 plus pitches thrown in the span, Jose Barrios' expected batting average against is 5th highest, expected slugging against was 6th highest, and expected WOBA against was 4th highest. And his strikeout rate is 16% in the span, which is 11th lowest out of 84. This is a guy who we knew to strike out a good bit of batters, and he is not doing that. And in fact, out of 86 pitchers in this span, his whiff rate is the 4th lowest in baseball. Also, along with that, giving up the long ball a good bit more, which is especially bad when you pair it with the lack of strikeouts. His home run rate has gone from 3.5% before the span to 5.8% in the span, and he has allowed the most home runs in baseball in this span and has had the 3rd highest home runs per 9 heading into today in this span. Part of that has to do with just the location of his fly balls. 10% of his batted balls in general have been pulled fly balls, which is the 5th highest rate out of 46 pitchers with 100 plus batted balls in this span. So not only is he allowing the ball to get in the air more often, or disproportionately, it is going, in the direction the hitter wants it to put it, wants to put it. And the pitch that has given him the most trouble is the 4-seam fastball. Hitters are hitting 478 with a 1,000 slugging against his 4-seam fastball, and that is not a small sample size. He uses that 23% of the time. Almost a quarter of his pitches are 4-seam fastballs, and he's got a 1,000 slugging against it. Out of 166 pitchers to throw 100 plus 4-seamers, his average against it is the 2nd highest, and slugging against it is the highest. So yeah, Jose Barrios, after kind of getting by through some good luck in the first parts of the year, he is regressed further than I would have expected him to regress, and he is getting a
slightly alarming.
All right, so that does it for slightly alarming. Now we'll go from the lows to the highs, where we are talking players or subjects that are outperforming expectations with our Monday, July 15 edition of How About That?
He's striking out less, walking more, and he's also making better contact.
Turning into a strikeout machine just out of nowhere.
He's been excellent all around this year.
He is getting a
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a how about that I knew that I wanted to do for a while. I saw like 5 games into this stretch that this guy was performing well, and it was too early to do it, but he's just kept it going. And there's never been, in my opinion, a more obvious how about that than Brenton Doyle right now. I mean, I see you nodding your head. I would have to assume that you went the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, if he is shame if not did it, so we both had to do it.
Yeah.
Since June 28th, Brenton Doyle, who, by the way, was one of the worst hitters in baseball last year, but like the best defender. And the consensus on him was if he could just like be a league average bat or even like a slightly below league average bat with that defense, he's going to be such a valuable player. And well, since June 28th, he is slashing 370, 462, 907 for a 1359 OPS, a 251 weighted runs created plus, despite being in Colorado, and a 1.5 F4. Among the 184 qualifying position players in the span, he ranks 7th in batting average, 4th in OBP, 1st in slugging, 1st in OPS, 1st in weighted runs created plus, again, despite being in Colorado, and by far 1st in F4 because his defense is just as good as it has been. His strikeout rate before the span was 26.1%, and in the span, he has dropped it down to 17.5%, so he is striking out a lot less. His walk rate before the span was 8.1%, and in the span, it has risen to 12.7%. Also before the span, and this is perhaps the biggest difference that he's made, his ground ball rate was 45.3%, which is around league average, but in the span, it is down to 25%, which is tied for the 6th highest the 6th lowest among the 234 hitters with at least 25 batted balls throughout the span. His fly ball rate has also gone from 28.4% to 38.6%, a 10% increase, and his average exit velocity on fly balls has gone from 91.5% to 97.8%. That is the 8th highest among the 122 hitters with at least 10 fly balls in this span in terms of average exit velocity on those fly balls. And overall in this span, his 424 expected batting average ranks 17th on that aforementioned list of 234, and his 1.007 slugging ranks 4th, and that's on batted balls. He also has 90 outs above average and 94th percentile sprint speed, making him an elite defender and base runner throughout this span and throughout this year and just in his career. So Brenton Doyle has been just remarkable for the Rockies over the last few weeks, and he is getting a how about that, a well-deserved how about that.
Yeah, Brenton Doyle.
How about that?
Yeah, usually when you're when we're on the leaderboards and we see guys with these numbers, it's guys who are ineligible for how about that. But it's from a guy who was, as you said, maybe the worst offensive player in baseball, or the worst hitter in baseball last year. As prefaced before, I also have Brenton Doyle just because I couldn't risk even 1%, even if I thought there was a 99% chance you were taking.
I would say it was the most obvious how about that of all time, and it's easy to assume the other person's doing it, but you can't risk them not doing it. And no one talks about him.
Yeah, and he's our first Rocky.
Yes.
Is that correct? So we had to fill that
very much
also. I went back just to the month of July, 13 game stretch, including today. Brenton Doyle in the month of July is hitting .422 with a 1687 OPS. That's the colonial era about.
Yeah.
We're just getting into America, but we're not, a fully formed union yet. He is slugging 1178 and has 13 extra base hits in his last 13 games. And out of 188 qualifiers in this span heading into today, his average ranked 4th, on base percentage ranked 3rd, and slugging and OPS were both the highest by a lot. Out of 161 hitters with 150 plus pitches seen in July heading into today, his expected slugging was the highest and expected WOBA was the second highest. He has been making more contact. His strikeout rate has gone from 26% before the span to 19% in the span, and his walk rate has gone from 8% to 15%. He's nearly striking out and walking at the same exact rate. But what is most impressive is his differences in batted ball data. His average exit velocity has gone from 88.7 miles per hour to 93.4 miles per hour. And his sweet spot rate has gone from 34% before the span to 54%, including today. And that kind of goes into the direction of you talking about his fly ball rate. That goes into the sweet spot rate and how well he's doing at distributing the batted balls launch angle wise. If you don't know, hitters hit about 600 and slug about 1100 when they're in that sweet spot zone. That's why Brenton Doyle has been succeeding so much. And out of 175 hitters with 25 plus batted balls in the span heading into today, his sweet spot rate was the third highest out of almost 200 batters. Along with that, his hard hit sweet spot rate has gone from 16% to 43%, including today. And out of 175 hitters heading into today, his hard hit sweet spot rate ranks second. That's, hitting it 95 miles per hour or above, keeping it within 8 degrees and 32 degrees of launch angle. Partially correlated with that, his barrel rate has gone from 8% before the span to 29% in the span, including today. That's judge territory. Is that 29%?
He did also homer today.
He did get a barrel today, and that 29% does actually include today. It was a 1,000 expected batting average home run, which I think was a home run in 30 out of 30 ballparks too. Out of 175 hitters, his barrel rate ranked second coming into today. Oddly enough, his average bat speed is actually lower by 1.1 miles per hour. And his swing length is lower by 0.2 inches. So something about, shortening up that swing, don't try to kill the ball out there.
It was too long.
Yeah, maybe that's helping out a little bit. He's just, a little bit more compact. Maybe that's helping
getting it through the zone better.
Yeah.
Making the right kind of contacts.
Yeah, exactly. It's maybe it's working out for him. I mean, he's hitting the ball harder despite swinging it. So
that could probably explain the lower strikeout rate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's easier to swing and miss when you're going quickly through the zone.
Exactly.
Rather than going slower, you have a better opportunity to just kind of find it. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't played baseball in 5 years. I'm just guessing.
Well, just correlatively, the guys with the lowest bat speeds are Luis Ariz and Stephen Kwan, who have sub 10% strikeout rates. Mm-hmm. That's Brenton Doyle from me and Daniel, or from Daniel and me.
How How about that?
It is
Yeah.
time for Savant Trivia.
It is time for Savant Trivia.
All right. Luckily, this is
ninth
a quick
edition.
one. Yeah, this is a quick one. There's no visuals for this one. No need for screen sharing, and we'll get us out of here quickly because this one is a late pod for us. So, this one's very simple. It's very simple, but maybe the most difficult game that I have comprised for you today. We are doing a Savant multiple choice quiz. So I created some questions that can be answered using either the search tool on Baseball Savant or various other tools on the website, and you're going to be answering these questions. So that's about it.
Multiple choice was my favorite type of test growing up, so
yeah.
hopefully it goes well.
All right, so we'll just get started. Question number 1, and there's 8. The percent of fly balls league-wide that are pulled. So not the pulled fly ball, right? The percent of fly balls that are pulled.
Yeah.
Your options are A, 26.4%, B, 29.6%, C, 31.2%, or D, 34.0%.
I'm going A, 26.4%.
And you are on the board with that answer.
Woo.
26.4% is correct. Yeah, not a lot of fly balls league-wide are pulled. You figure you can either pull it, hit it straight away, or hit it the opposite way, which means 33% would be the median. 26%, quite lower than 33%.
Yeah, and I think the general MLB pull rate, fly balls included, is much above that. It's like in the mid-30s or something like that.
Yeah. All right, next one. The league-wide four-seam fastball usage. Very simple. And this is all 2024. Unless I say otherwise, this is all 2024. Is it A, 28.4%? Is it B, 31.2%? Is it C, 36.7%? Or is it D, 39.3%?
I'm going to go with C.
C is incorrect. The correct answer was B, 31.2%. So you were, close, not quite there though. 1 for 2. And we are going to move on to the next question. The league-wide launch angle against sinkers. Is it A, -4 degrees? Is it B, 0 degrees? Is it C, 2 degrees? Or is it D, 5 degrees?
Yeah, it's a smart display of choices there, because we know we know the average.
Yeah,
launch
I mean, come on,
angles.
it's elementary level knowledge on this show.
I mean,
sinkers
we know
produce
the average launch
grandmas.
angle is around like 11 to 13 degrees, and it's a sinker, so it's obviously going to be like below that. So yeah, that's a very good question. Because I haven't really studied it, I'm tempted to go somewhere in the middle. We've gone. So the answers have been A and B so far.
It's -4, 0, 2, and 5.
I'm gonna go. I'll go with C, 2 degrees.
That is not the answer we were looking for. We were looking for 5 degrees.
Ooh, okay.
5 degrees. Yeah. That's all right. Like I said, these are tough. These are really hard. I didn't make these easy. All right. Question 4. The league-wide slugging percentage on barrels. Is it A, 1.776? Is it B, 2.024? Is it C, 2.331? Or is it D, 2.667?
Well, I mean, I'm just tempted to say 1776 because 4th of July just passed.
Yeah.
There was a very patriotic moment for at least half the country yesterday.
Yeah, right.
Wait, what were the last two options again? I'm sorry about that.
2.331 and 2.677.
I'm trying to think. Because I've studied the data before.
Yeah, you've consulted the data.
I've consulted the data because I know, because I mean, how it makes me think what percentage of barrels are pulled? Because I know the pulled barrel, like when you pull barrels, it's like a very, very high slugging percentage. Oh man.
The maximum is 4,000.
Maximum is 4,000, correct? I believe around like 55% of barrels are home runs, or somewhere around like 50% are home runs. So that's like bare minimum 2,000. I'm gonna go with choice D.
Choice D is not what we were looking for. We were looking for choice C, 2.331.
Okay.
Yeah, so one
All
for
right.
4. But again, like I said, these are very, very difficult. So now we're gonna switch it up a little bit and go off of the search tool and go onto some player profiles. Javier
right.
Baez's 2024 chase rate. We're looking at A, 34.5%, B, 41.9%, C, 45.4%, or D, 48.1%.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we know it is very high. By the way, league average is around 28%, I believe. So that is how above average, or above or below average, however you want to put it. Javier Baez is at that. I'm gonna go D, 48%.
It's not, it's C, 45.4%. You're getting one answer off on like all of these.
I guess that's a good process metric.
Yeah.
I'm not too far off.
Yeah, I think you have a good shot at this next one
I
though.
have a bad record in one-run games. I'm due
Yeah,
to bounce
exactly.
back.
I think I like your chances on this one though. Cody Bellinger's slugging minus X slugging in 2023.
Okay.
Is it A, 91, B, 104, C, 117, or D, 125?
Man, okay. I know he hit 307 with an 881 OPS. His slugging, I know his on-base percentage was probably upper 300, so 881 minus somewhere in the upper 300. He was probably around a flat 500 slugging. So what was his expected slugging? His expected slugging, was it over under 400? Trying to think out loud here. Because I know his expected WOBA was fairly average, and I think his expected batting average was probably a little bit above average. Didn't have a high exit velocity. I know that. I don't think his barrel rate was great either. So can you repeat the numbers again?
Yeah, it is A, 91, B, 104, C, 117, and D, 125.
Oh man. I'm gonna say I looked too much into I looked too much into his batting average and expected batting average last year.
Yeah.
That was because that was like around 40. I know that. So slugging, I'll say 117.
The answer we were looking for was 91.
91. All
Yeah,
right.
choice A. All
Choice
right.
A.
Number 7, we got 2 left. Let's finish strong here. The attack zone with the highest league-wide WOBA. We're looking for A, Heart, B, Shadow, and you could probably fill out the rest from here, but C, Chase, and D, Waste. We're looking for the highest WOBA.
WOBA. So that includes walks.
Mm-hmm.
So waste definitely is a candidate because yeah, I mean you're not going to get any hard contact off waste, but if you swing, it will be probably a swing and a miss. However, if you don't swing, it's definitely a ball. Heart is tempting because that's where the most solid contact is going to come. But yeah, I mean, I imagine the walk rate on plate appearances that end in the waist zone is like 850, 900. So how is that going to contribute to WOBA versus the heart of the zone? I'm going to say waist.
And you would be correct.
Woo!
Yeah, the WOBA on waste pitches this year is 474. It's actually not even close. For Hart, it's 356.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So you got your 2 for 7 now. This last one's pretty tough. The run value on Luis Castillo's changeup in the year 2019. All right, our options are A, 19, B, 25, C, 28, and D, 31.
That was a legendary year for his changeup.
Mm-hmm.
If I recall correctly. Yeah, he was that was kind of a speaking of all-star games, like I remember watching him in that all-star game and thinking like, oh wow, this guy's for real. I'm gonna say I'll say 31.
The answer was 28.
Ah,
Very close. Again, 1-run games.
one run
So
game. Yeah,
again,
just
I
there.
like I said, this was the most difficult set of games that I have constructed so far. You went two for 8, 2 and 6, whatever you want to call it. I know that's not a very good record, but these were very hard questions.
Yeah, I was average performance considering there were 4 options for each one.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah, I was the 2023 Padres. I was almost there so many
So many
times.
times, exactly. I never like 2 out of it, except
Never
for like
too
the
much.
Bellinger question, you were 2 off on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was my worst. That was like my worst loss.
As soon as you said his average or his slugging was probably a flat 500, I was like, oh no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was like 480, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Or
fair.
no, wait, what was? Actually, no, I think it was a flat 500. It was 525 actually.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
he didn't really walk a whole ton.
No, he didn't.
Um, yeah, but yeah, that shall do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. On his Twitter, you can find his Travis Bazzana story. And yeah, that shall do it for this week's Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we'll be talking all the happenings of Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.